Alright, so we're going to be going over the new progress system. I know I am a little bit late, but that is because I really didn't have anything substantial to add to the conversation until recently. I've been talking to Plarium, thinking about things, kind of self-debates back and forth, I guess you could say. Reading the Q&A, watching other people's videos, trying to kind of get an idea of how it would or would not affect things potentially. So, here is basically how it works, if you're not aware. The new progress system will have tiers, 8 tiers. To unlock a tier, you got to collect a certain number of tier stars from the previous tier, which is essentially just, let's say, tier 1 has Paragon and Lancer, and in order to unlock tier 2, you gotta have 3 stars. That just means you get Paragon at rank 1, that's 1 star. The stars are just the ranks, that's all it is. Maxed out is not 7 stars. I know some people call it 7 stars, but they even say in the Q&A, maxed out does not give you 7, it's still 6. So, yeah, there's that. But, yes. So then you'd need to get, in the situation I just gave, you need to get Paragon, you need to get Lancer, and then you need to rank one of them up 1 time, and then you'd have 3 stars total. So buying an item does give you the number of stars, that according to like whatever rank thing that you just got. So some more details about it, more or less what I just said, but probably a little bit neater. If you have any particular questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, but it's pretty straightforward. In terms of items that are already in your inventory, according to this response here, essentially, if you already have an item, then that item's not going to be taken away from you, but you're not necessarily going to get the tier that it belongs in. Let's say you have Killshot and it belongs in tier 5, right? But your tier 4 items, or all the items that you had for tier 4, don't add up. Like, you haven't ranked those up enough to unlock tier 5 technically. So even though you'll still have Killshot from tier 5, you won't actually have tier 5 unlocked, so you won't be able to get anything else from that. And I'm assuming the lowest tier that you don't have unlocked will automatically lock the rest of the tiers too, but I don't particularly know in that specific situation. Like, if tier 2 was locked for some reason, would all the rest of the tiers be locked just by default, just because tier 2 was locked? I don't know. Couldn't answer that question. But here are, I think, a few misconceptions that people had, and kind of general ideas that I think are not particularly legitimate. And those are mostly the idea of, first off, wasted upgrades being, in order to, for my first example, in order to unlock tier 2, you have to then rank up your Paragon or your Lancer 1 time. Now, everyone can agree that that is a bad idea, like, strategically, right? From a resource optimization standpoint, everyone can agree. Ranking up your Panther, ranking up your Lancer isn't the best idea. You want to get other things and rank those up first. But from a new player's perspective, it doesn't matter. You probably, when you first started, ranked up your Paragon or your Lancer, even though they weren't very good, but you didn't know they weren't very good, number 1. And number 2, they are good when you get them, and it's going to be very cheap to rank them up. So it's not such a big deal. When you think in terms of, like, wasted, quote, wasted upgrades, it's simply from an experienced player's point of view of optimization. Like, this is not the point of view a new player comes into the game with, like, ever, unless they're a new player who already has an experienced account and they're, like, making a new account for some reason. then it's relevant, but otherwise it's really not. And people are going to upgrade things that work for them, which will just be, the best things that they have. The progress pace is another thing. Some people said, in order to get all of these things, in order to rank up all of these things, in order to unlock the next tier, it's going to take a lot of acorns. It's going to take a lot of rank ups, a lot of, a lot of upgrades, a lot of resources that are pretty difficult to get. So will it take a substantially large amount of time to progress across this new system? I think first off that doesn't really matter. Now, some of you might disagree with this, but at the end of the day, you as a player are progressing just regardless of how fast this new progress thing is going. It's going the same pace for everyone else. So everyone around you, everyone at your level is also progressing at the same pace. You are not behind anyone unless they're like, spending copious amounts of money or something to get their things ranked up. But also, they will be adding, according to this one, they will be adding new items into existing tiers, meaning instead of upgrading the rank of something, you can just buy a new item from that thing, which is most of the time going to be cheaper, right? Even something like Redox, which is very expensive, it's 7,500 acorns. But at the end of the day, what's going to be more expensive? Buying a Redox for 7,500 acorns at rank 5, giving you 5 stars, or ranking something up, or ranking 5 things up one time. Most likely, it's still going to be cheaper to just buy the Redox. So, you get progression from buying things. Something like Zephyr is a great example, where it's like, it costs, I think, like 500,000 credits, and that's... And it comes at rank 4, so that's not bad at all. Like, you can get a lot of stars simply by buying a new thing. And so as more things are added to this system, it's going to increasingly become easier and easier to progress, because you no longer have to rank things up, you just have to buy more things. And you can, you'll have more options to choose from as well, as more things are added. But the main reason that I wanted to make this video even is exactly the reason that you clicked on this video, probably. You saw the title of the video. Will this update, will this change actually make a difference in terms of free-to-play players? Will it solve your problems? Will it cause the game to be more or less pay to win? And I want to direct your attention to 2 images specifically. That would be the first one. Right here. Each tier contains a variety of mechs and weapons which you can acquire using credits, acorns, and in-app purchases. Cool. So there are a lot of ways to get in-app purchases from offers and things like that, right? This image... All other mechs and weapons in the market can be obtained by spending credits and acorns, or in some cases, with in-app purchases. Now, they are not referring to offers here. They are referring to the progress system. They are referring to the progress system in both of these images. They are not referring to offers, they're referring to this new system. Meaning, there will be items in this system. There is a very high chance that there will be items in this system that will require you to spend money. That means anything. It could be anything. When you unlock tier 6 and it has Bastion in it, or whatever, Bastion might cost you $30 US in that tier, in this system. it is not necessarily going to only cost in-game resources. It could very well cost you real money, meaning that it's going to be potentially very difficult to progress through this system once you get to a certain point without spending money to get these new items, because then you have to spend all of your resources ranking up all of these other things that come from the tier before, right? And that is not mentioning my main complaint, I would say, which is that in order to progress through this system, you have to ditch every old mech or weapon that you have. There is no, like, you can't progress if you're holding on to shotguns because you really like shotgun, right? You can't progress if you keep MD in your hangar because you really like the healer. It's just not going to happen. You have to focus all of your resources on the new things in order to unlock more new things. So either it goes very, very slow and very, very poorly for you, or you have to essentially drop all sense of individuality and creativity and basically just go with whatever Mech Arena decides, okay, you know, this is better than this, so therefore you want this and you don't want this other thing. But this goes to, you know, this kind of goes back to what I've been saying lately, is that every update of late has been accentuating this idea that some items are just better than other items. You can't use long arm because you appreciate the mechanics and you see the benefits that it has over railgun or EM rifle. This is what you used to be able to do prior to the Great Update, but now you cannot. It is simply a bad weapon compared to these other two, quote, good weapons. And so Mech Arena, whoever's in control of this, be it the developers or the company itself, I don't know, they are entirely what determines whether or not something is useful to you. Whatever they decide is whatever they decide you're going to use is what you're going to have to use. Otherwise, you're just not going to perform well. And so this idea that applied skill in a lot of situations means significantly less than it used to. You don't really need skill, you just need to use whatever the good items are, because if you have skill but you don't have the good items, guess what? You're still going to lose. You can use one fun build in your hangar, sure, but you cannot go without any of these preset, determined, quote, meta weapons or meta mechs that they decide that you're going to use. And this is part of what is kind of scary to me about these two statements that they make about in-app purchases, is that any number, any one of those 5 meta mechs or those top 3 weapons could be paid access only. And if even one of them is, then that means that anyone willing to spend will have a better hangar guaranteed than anyone who cannot or will not spend. And so in this case, I know a lot of people question whether or not Mech Arena is a pay-to-win game. But if that is something that you're concerned about, if you don't want to or can't spend on a game like this, but you still want to perform at the highest level, then I would highly encourage you to look out for when this new system drops. If one of these, of the top 5 mechs or one of the top 3 weapons are paid access only, then you know that this game is pay to win. Just by definition, you are going to be better off simply because you spent. There's no amount of grinding that is going to get you anywhere further. The very fact that items in this system could be spenders access only means that you could unlock something like Bastion, right? In my previous example, like Bastion for $30, right? Even though you've unlocked Bastion, you still cannot buy it because of money, right? But according to the game, you've unlocked it. So it's not going to give you offers for in-game currency. There will be a near zero chance that there will ever be an opportunity for you to get any of those items for in-game currency ever, really, if they are paid access only in this new system. And so, by that definition, the game is essentially completely pay to win, and if they're willing to do it with one of the top 5 mechs or one of the top 3 weapons, then they will be willing to do it with more. So if that is something that you are concerned about, and that is something that you want to find out, to determine whether or not you're going to spend on this game, or determine whether or not you're going to continue playing this game, then yeah, look out for that if it is, and that's, an issue. I encourage you to just stop playing while you're still ahead, because you're just going to get frustrated. Now, another thing that has me a bit concerned is this last statement here. So, as more content is added to the game, will it increase the number of stars required to unlock tiers? No, is the short answer, and that sounds great to anyone who's probably not paying attention. We don't envision the number of tier stars required to unlock tiers increasing, even if more mechs and weapons are added to them. We see the addition of new content to the tiers as an opportunity to add variety to the game, not as a way to make it more difficult or time-consuming to make progress. Essentially, we're not going to make it more expensive just because we added more things to a tier, right? There is no mention of adding more tiers. There is simply a mention of adding things to the existing 8 tiers. Or, the will be existing 8 tiers. That does not mean that they won't add more tiers, but if it does kind of imply there is a non-zero chance that they do not plan to ever add any more than the original 8 tiers. In which case, that makes this system a very, very short-term solution, because it would be incredibly cluttered and unoptimized and kind of irresponsible of them to 2 years from now have 8 tiers, the same 8 tiers full of like 30 items each, right? Clearly that would not be a good look, and you don't want to unlock 30 items at the exact same time. What in the world are you going to do with that? Exactly. So, there is a non-zero chance that if these 8 tiers are in fact the only ones that they will ever add, or the only ones that they ever intend to add, that this is meant to be a solution for a finite period of time. This is not a long-term solution. This is a short-term solution, because it will get cluttered again, and it will become inconvenient again. Meaning that there is a very real possibility that somewhere inside Plarium is a specified period of time that they plan to have this game actively running for. There might be an exact date, even, for when they plan to stop the development of this game altogether. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions, and that might sound very harsh to you, but quite simply, if you're going from a short-term solution and your goal is to create a better system, and said system is another short-term solution, then probably either you really, really don't know what you're doing, or you don't actually plan to be running for very much longer. Maybe they didn't even plan to be running for this long at all. Who knows? But, at any rate, I don't want to necessarily speak doom all around the corners, because let's be honest, even if everything that's not in the existing progress path is sold for real money in the new system, the game won't be any more pay to win than it is now. You already can only get these items via real money as of right now. The only thing that this would change is that now, with the new system, you could get those items at any time. If you were willing to spend, you wouldn't have to wait for some offer, or you have to wait for some event. You wouldn't have to wait. You could get it at any time that you felt like getting it. So it is, overall, just by nature, a good change. Will it solve all of your problems? Probably not. And those are just a few things that I wanted to address and clarify. I just wanted to bring up those things because those are some of the things that stood out to me a lot. Those are my, foremost concerns about the new system. Do I believe that there's really any chance that this will be everything that I ever hoped and dreamed of? I don't think so. I think there is an extremely low chance that this will be, anyone's real ideal solution. I think it will help, for sure, but it will not solve all of your problems. And, I just want to make sure that everybody kind of was aware of that and was expecting it before anything happened, so that, you're not surprised or disappointed when this update does drop about a month from now, I would expect. So yeah, I will see y'all later. Take care.